Why do you seem so scared? All I wanted to do was play with you.
Welcome to Terror Tracks, hosted by best-selling horror author Jack Pierce. We publish new episodes every Monday at 2 a.m. EST. Go to terrortracks.com/shop if you would like to support the show, and follow us on social media at terrortracks.com/follow. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everyone. In this episode of Terror Tracks, we will be talking about the tale of Locker 22. Honestly, a story that I feel was really well done, and I'd like to write something similar to it, honestly. I feel like it almost sort of captures the type of writing I do. But even more important than that, we are finally at my favorite section of Under a Morning Star called The White Room. Let me give you a little bit of context for this, of how I wrote this and why this is so radically different than what you've heard so far. The Norcastle section was originally its own thing, which was going to basically end with them more or less trying to say that Omega was like an amalgamation of all the hatred and shame and negative feelings of the people who died in Norcastle, which isn't true. But that was the original ending. So they were going to get on the train together, and there will be the end after that. Well, what happened was I was also writing what you're about to hear now called The White Room, which was a different story, but it really did fit well with what I was trying to go for with Under a Morning Star. So they kind of came together, but they'll make a lot more sense of why they are in the same book after The White Room is over. So you're not listening to a different story entirely. It's still going, but you'll understand it a lot more after the White Room saga is over. But I'm telling you, this is probably the scariest thing I've ever written. So get your popcorn, sit back, relax. Welcome to The White Room. I'll see you in a moment.
Chapter 14. The White Room. I woke up in a cold sweat inside a small white room. I was alone. A bright fluorescent light affixed to the white ceiling shined down on me. No doors or windows. Only a mirror mounted on the wall. I tried to scream for help, but all that got me was a headache. Every sound I made gave an ear-piercing echo. I searched the walls and floor for any signs of a hidden exit. Rick, we gotta find a way out. I turned to see my friend Devin from Drova sitting against the wall. He wore baggy pants and an unzipped gray hoodie. He smiled at me. How is that possible? Devin died years ago. How did you remember how we used to go for those walks in the woods, man? Devin asked. Yeah, I was the dreamer and you were the couch potato. Always doped up, but I never minded too much. That was until the incident happened. Are you okay at least? I am where I always wanted to be. You have to choose where you want to be too, Devin said as he faded away. Devin, wait, I said, but it was too late. I sat there for a while contemplating how to escape this prison. A faint sound came in the distance. It seemed to be from the outside walls. Hey, it's okay, I'm here, I said. No response. The crying faded away, and I walked toward the mirror. A young blonde boy appeared. His soiled clothes and solid black eyes stared right into my soul. Hey, it's all right. I'm here. The boy looked up at me with those piercing black eyes. I drew back, not knowing what to expect. He pointed at me. I looked behind, and by the time I turned around, he was gone. Where did he go? How was I supposed to save him? Devin appeared again, leaning against the wall. That kid creeps me the hell out, Devin said, puffing on a joint. I know, but I have to save him, I said. You were always the tough one, Rick, but guts only gets you so far. Do you know how we can save him? Break the glass. That's what I'd try first, Devin said, fading away. Hey, stop, I said, but it was too late again. I inspected the mirror's edges, seeing if it would come off the wall. It was no use. It wouldn't budge an inch. If it was a two-way mirror, I could get through if I broke it. I drew back and slammed my fist against the glass. It shattered in all directions and fell to the floor in a small pile. As I looked down, the boy reappeared and smiled at me. The light overhead flickered, and the walls oozed a black, tarry substance. Black lines trailed down the walls, pooling onto the floor. A chorus of screams came, and I fell to my knees. I closed my eyes and held my ears. All I wanted to do was escape this horrific nightmare. I beat on the walls, screaming for someone to let me out, but no one could hear my cries. The substance filled the room, and after only a few moments, I was knee-deep in the tar. I felt it hardening and crushing my shins. I couldn't move. "No! Let me out! Please! Someone help me!" I yelled, struggling to move. The tar rose higher, and I struggled trying to find a way out, or at least anywhere that could give me higher ground. It was no use. The tar rose until it covered my face. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. I thought about Star and if she was okay. I had to escape so I could save her. There was no telling what my captors had done with her. With my final breath, I said, "Star, forgive me." Then everything went black. I woke up and the room had returned to normal. I stood and checked my body for wounds. There was no trace of the black tar or any stains on my clothes. I looked around, and on the wall, the word truth was written in green. The style was how Devin used to tag up walls with spray paint when we were teenagers. It faded away. What truth? What was there to find? The wall to my left had the letters RC inscribed in blood. What the hell does RC mean? Could it be someone's initials? Was it the boy's initials? I walked up to the wall, and as my hand pressed against the blood, it disappeared. A book fell and bounced on the floor with a loud thud. I was confused and wondered how it got there. I checked the ceiling above me and found no entry point. It came out of nowhere. It was a blue book with beautiful golden etching on the outside. It had the letters RC etched on the front. I was afraid to open it. What if it told me I'm dead? What if this was the book of life? If I opened it and saw my name, that meant I'm stuck here forever. I hesitated for a while, pondering over my options, ultimately deciding to open it. I took a deep breath and opened the book. The book's pages stretched and let out a tearing sound. Inside lay a black and white photo of the boy from the mirror. A caption below the picture read, "Thank you for freeing me. I'm home now, and you should go too." Home? How am I going to get home? I'm trapped here, I said.
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's review of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tale of Locker 22. This one is a tough one to review, honestly, but I think the best way to do it is just to start. I have a lot of notes, a whole ton of them, really. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, well, 3 pages. That's not too bad, but there's a lot to say about this episode. So the episode opens with a girl named Julie. Chris Chan, just why? Julie! I can't do his voice, but I don't want to play the original clip on here because that's pornographic, disgusting, and no one needs to remember the Julie thing from Chris Chan, but let's get past that. Just, I had to do it because, recent news. But anyway, so quick note before we keep going. The main actress is quote-unquote French. At least she's French in the episode. I don't know if she's French-Canadian, but she says she's from Paris, but her delivery is abysmal. It is so bad, it sounds like this the entire time.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Moving along. Her principal shows up, and we'll just call him Strickland because he's basically the same character as the principal from Back to the Future. And there's a lot of callbacks to that movie in this episode if you really pay attention to it. But Julie, not Julie. I'm going to have a problem with that now, apparently. So Julie is assigned Locker 22, which is in this weird graffiti Candyman part of the school. I don't know why it exists because there's like no other kids around. This kind of reminds me of the first Candyman movie. It's like, why is this still here? Why isn't it demolished? But yeah, And the principal gives her a talk about don't cause trouble and all this other stuff. And it's really stupid. So she goes to class and she gets bullied by these two jocks and makes friends with a guy named Chris. I'm not joking. The guy's name is Chris, but you only get one Jule per episode with this. I'm not making this up, I swear. But this time, this Chris is not a fat white dude. It's just a normal looking black guy. So I'm going to try to keep myself straight every time I have to say Julie. It's Julie, not Jule. Okay. So we go through the usual motions of the bullies being bullies. A food fight breaks out, and Julie goes to her locker at the end of the day, and she sees this hippie girl that doesn't say anything. She just sort of stares at her, and then she's like, "Who are you?" And then she just disappears into thin air. So Jule, I guess we're just going to call her that for the rest of the episode, tells Chris that she thought she saw a ghost. He laughs at her, and she tells him that she's serious. And all of a sudden, for some reason, it gets out. I think he told somebody, but it really kind of doesn't matter, because the episode doesn't go anywhere because of this plot point. It's just she gets mad, and it's just more filler, really. But she goes to school, she confronts him, then she goes to her locker where she gets scared by one of the bullies throwing a basketball at her locker's door. She turns around and sees the blonde bully talking about ghosts. And then we cut to the other bully with a sheet over his head with sunglasses on, which is a nice reference to Halloween 1. This show really does a great job when it comes to Halloween 1 references, and there's a lot of them in these episodes. And she sees the hippie chick come back after the bullies leave, and she points to the beads that were in Julie's locker, and Julie puts them on. The beads send her back in time to where she's in the 60s version of the school, and everyone is a hippie and a pothead, apparently, even the principal. She takes the beads off and she's zapped back to modern day, and I love this idea of having a magic item that can send you back in time. This is something that I would do. It is something that I've kind of sort of done. It was an Under Morning Star, but it was not really an item. It was more like a power that Star had in that book to, take you back in time. But I love this effect. I love this idea of just being like having alternate versions of the same place, but at different times or different spaces or different effects. I loved it in the Super Specs, and it's great here too. I think it's actually done a lot better in this episode though, even though there would be some complications if you took this idea too far. But I love it. I've used it plenty of times in my books, the whole parallel thing with, Earth and Eden in all of my books, where a lot of it's mentioned where you have, different scenes that take place in different worlds that are kind of like alternate versions of each other. It's kind of weird, but you have to read my books to understand. By the way, if I haven't said it yet, all my books are in Kindle Unlimited. Go over there. It's basically a Netflix for books on Amazon. Anyway, let's keep going. So it turns out that the girl with the hippie getup is named Candy. And Candy died in an accident during chemistry class in 1968, and the necklace that she gives Julie lets her assume Candy's life in the 60s, kind of, even though Candy isn't French. I don't understand, but one way or another, Julie more or less takes over Candy's soul or body back in the 60s, and, they look nothing alike. It's kind of weird. So she puts the beads back on and goes back in time again, and Chris runs in yelling, "Julie!" He actually yells Julie. I'm not even joking. This is actually like, I guess, 15, maybe 20 years before that incident happened, but in retrospect, this is the Chris Chan episode, I guess. But anyway, Candy shows up and teleports Chris to the past, and he saves Julie right before she lights a hot plate, which would have made the entire room explode because there was a leaky pipe thing, whatever you call it, like the thing that connects to a gas nozzle. I guess it's a pipe, or we'll just call it a pipe. That was leaking. It would have made the room blow up. So Julie and Chris go back to present day, and Candy never dies. She's a new principal. Old principal gets fired. Apparently back in the 60s before he became principal, I think. They don't really explain that. Candy sends the bullies to her office and basically doesn't really acknowledge if Julie saved her or not, but they just have this sort of weird unspoken look that they give each other, and that's it. Episode ends. So, what do I think about this? Final rating, 7 out of 10. I have nothing to complain about beyond the bad acting from Julie. She really sounds like Tommy Wiseau the entire episode. She just has all these weird little mannerisms, and I know that Tommy, he's supposed to be Polish, and he claims that he actually came from France or whatever. I know French people. I don't think anyone from France talks like Tommy Wiseau or this girl. I mean, maybe they do, but I've never heard it. But the French do have a very odd way of, speaking English anyway. So maybe I'm wrong, but they really should have picked a better actress, than this one, because there's no reason for her to be French. Not saying anything's wrong with the French, but there's no reason for this particular character to be French. I don't get it. But anyway, the story is good. It's not scary. It's just another one of these things, sort of like the Tale of the Prom Queen. It tells a perfectly good story. There's no real issues with the story. It's just not spectacular. It's not like the Pinball Wizard or, Captured Souls level. Would I write something like this? Probably. And actually, next week's review is going to be The Tale of the Dream Machine, which is actually, strangely enough, the inspiration for Ghost Rider. So that'll be an interesting episode to see how it turned out against Ghost Rider, even though I never really saw this episode for a long time, and I think that the next episode might be kind of bad. The idea of a haunted typewriter really I loved it. And I think I even had a different version of Ghost Rider before it became a full story, where it was more or less a kid got bullied, he got a typewriter, used it, and then the bullies died, and school got shot up or something bad at the end of it, and the kid had to go on the run. I think that's pretty much what it was, but I can't remember. I voiced it and it was so long ago. And I also had a couple other audio dramas that I produced that are just lost to time, unfortunately. Escape from Hell was one, and then you had The White Room, which eventually was put in Under a Morning Star, and just a lot of stuff missing. But this is the end of the episode. Thank you for listening. Please, if you have Kindle Unlimited, check out the books. It would really help me a lot if you read them via Kindle Unlimited or bought them. Most of the books are on Audible now, or at least trying to get them on there. And one final message, because I've been going through a rough time, and I know that you've seen some negative episodes, so I want to give you a little bit of relief, I guess. I have a book called Nuke Your Brain, and if you want a copy of this for free, you can send me a message on Twitter or email me, jack@terrortracks.com. I will send you a copy of the book, because I know the pandemic is really, really crunching down on people. I can't give you the audio book for free. Well, actually I can if I get the bounty URL. So we might be able to set up that too, where you can get the audiobook for free like you can Condemned and Ghost Rider right now, that I need to set up that bounty too. But anyway, if you're going through a rough time, I understand. I'm, going through it too, and I understand. So I'm going to try to work out some type of deal where we can get you a copy of that for free, because I've been listening to it again, listening to my own work. I know it sounds arrogant, but I think it has helped me a lot just listening back to what I wrote, because, it's sort of train of consciousness advice that I should be taking. So, my own advice, I should listen to it, because I forgot half of the stuff. Once I write a book and it comes out, it's almost like if I come back a year later and listen to the audiobook version, I feel like I'm listening to somebody else's book. Like, it doesn't sound like my book anymore. Mainly because by the time you're done with the editing phase, you forgot what your book is even about. So, anyway, that's the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. By the way, actually, I did screw up and I lied to you. We are going to do the Tale of the 13th Floor next week, and then it's going to be the Dream Machine after that. I was actually looking up wrong on the notes, so I apologize. It will be the 13th Floor, which is a god tier episode. Probably my favorite episode, if not, second favorite, only to the Phone Police episode. So, I will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to follow us, go to terrortracks.com/follow. Also, please check out our Patreon, where you can get cool merch, writing lessons, and other awesome rewards starting at $5 a month at patreon.com/terrortracks. See you next week. Goodbye for now.